It's about passion for a sport we all enjoy. It's about conservation, education, community, and fellowship. It's about a single voice of strength. It's about being part of a common cause for the common good. It's about you. It's about us. It's our time to come together.
We're asking you to join us
and become a proud members American Catfish Association. You'll be happy you did. They're doing a great job.
Yeah, they are.
Welcome, everybody, to ACA Live, special presentation. For those that don't know, on Friday, after a lot of work by a lot of people, Kentucky passed a 1/35 regulation that is pretty impressive. It's pretty much takes on the entire state of Kentucky with there's one portion, lower portion of the Ohio that it doesn't cover, but we hope in the near future it will. But I want to bring in some folks that have been very, very instrumental in making this happen. We have with us tonight, let me get rid of that. We got Justin Browning and Jeremy Chase with us, and we also have Colonel Michael Abel. Let me see if I can get Mike in here too. There he is. We just got to set this up here. There we go. Well, you know what, guys? I'm going to go back to this layout. Hang on. There we go. That's better.
Mike, could you show your music?
Mike, can you hear us?
Yeah, I got you guys. Finally.
Good.
Finally.
Yeah, Mike's been having some challenges with his connection. So, guys, I appreciate you taking the time and joining us tonight. Friday was a very, very important accomplishment for the catfish community. And Justin, if I can call on you for a little bit, there's a lot of people over the years that have put in a ton of work, to get us to this point. And let me go through some of these names: Aaron Wheatley and Steve Douglas, Rob Benefield, obviously yourself, Scott Kress, Chris DeBow, Chris Lee, and there's so many others that have been instrumental in bringing this to the attention of Kentucky and the commission, and really to the catfish community. And Justin, if you would give us a little bit of background and history on all this.
Well, there has been a lot of guys fighting behind the scenes. I mean, it's been going on for a long time. It ain't where we want it, but we're in a lot better spot now than we was 20 years ago. So I think everybody started up. But, the Ohio River and Kentucky at one time didn't have no regulations at all. There was zero limits. They could go out and take as many as they wanted all day long, every day. So, like I said, we've come a long ways there. I know we started fighting probably first in Indiana back in, I'd say, 05, 06. That soon spread to Kentucky. And then I think the 1/35 went in somewhere around 2012 in Kentucky. And then I think they took one a year and then they started forcing it. And I think 13 or 14, even though it was in, they gave them a year to, get everything going, get used to the regulations and everything else. Then they started enforcing it. But
was that both commercially and recreational?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think I'm pretty sure the 4/40 went in at the same time. I think it went in. I can't remember if it went in at the same time or if it went in Yeah, I believe it did go in at the same time. I can't remember. I know, but like I said, we've come a long ways. We're not where we're not where we want to be, but if anytime you can get something done in Kentucky or Illinois or Indiana, it's going to put more pressure on the states around that, because there's they're going to be looking, saying, hey, we're sharing water. These guys are adding regulations. We need to take a look at something. So the more pressure you put on, you more regulations you get on Kentucky or any of the surrounding states, because I know we got some stuff working in Indiana. It's better as a whole.
Right. Yeah, we've been in contact with Kentucky now. Was it almost 3.5 years? And just constantly, and you guys have seen it, and those that haven't, you can go down on our Facebook page, and you can see kind of our wish list of regulations that we'd like to have put in place. Obviously, a lot of it is centered around the pay lake industry. The pay lake industry, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but the pay lake industry feeds off of fish that are these 35 inches and above. That's their marquee fish to draw people in.
Yes,
and they abuse the public fisheries, just constantly. So we've talked about transportation of live fish within the state. We've talked about prohibiting the taking of these trophy catfish from public resources for pay lakes. And Justin, was actually you that brought it to my attention that you said that these guys are taking from a lake, they're putting them in a private pond and then selling them to the pay lake, and they were kind of getting around some of the regulations doing that. And that's why the language that we presented to the state of Kentucky, and actually the language we present to every state, says any fish originating from public resource. So that's a very, very important language to include in these regulations. But we kind of got the door opened last fall when Dave Drees, who's the Kentucky fisheries chief, brought up new business, which included these new regulations, and that's when we all jumped to. And Mike, you were part of that first group that came to the commission meeting, I believe it was the first part of December of last year. We first started talking to them. Well, it was actually December of last year that they brought it up as far as new business.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
Mike,
then in June,
with your group in June, but Glenn, maybe you want to give them a little background, or Mike, you want to give them a background about?
Well, so yeah, guys, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. The Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Commission only meets 4 times a year. So if it's new business in December, it's a discussion item in March, and then it's an action item in June. And what I think actually happened is it got pushed. Sometimes if they have a new business item, they won't move it forward to discussion. Sometimes if they have a discussion item, they won't move it forward to be an action item. But the bottom line is that we all became acquainted with each other in the April-May timeframe because it was going to be a discussion item to change catfish regulations in Kentucky at the June commission meeting. And when it's a discussion item at the June commission meeting, then when it gets to September, it's going to be an action item. So that's when we all became, we all had either heard of each other or had talked about this stuff before, but we really started working together before the June meeting because, and to your point, Glenn, I really feel like Dave Dreves, the director of fisheries in Kentucky, deserves a lot of credit for this. And I think you're going to show some charts later that prove this out. But my organization is Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, and we don't have a fight in the catfish fight. We don't have a fight in this. What we do have a fight in is public lands, public waters, access, and public game and public fish. And when this came up on our radar as a chapter in Kentucky, over a year ago, our board started talking about it. And we took action here recently because it came up on the Fish and Wildlife Commission's agenda. But we made a public official statement that our chapter is against wild caught trophy catfish being put into pay lakes, and it is not fair chase and is a prostitution of the resource. And we've got in Kentucky over 2,800 members and supporters, and they jumped in behind us and supported it. And I think that kind of groundswell grassroots support is what convinced our fisheries director, Dave Dreves, and our 9 fish and wildlife commissioners in the 9 districts in Kentucky to vote to put these new regulations in that will tighten it up and make it much better for the fishery in Kentucky.
Yeah, and that's, I think that when, you know, commissions and the powers to be start to see things get organized, start to see, you know, groups come together and start to fight the fight, if you will, in a very methodical way, factual way, they tend to start taking notice. And it's interesting to see, you know, to see the politics of it all, and people have to understand too that these commissions, you know, and you guys obviously have experienced that the commission meeting starts at 8:30 in the morning and runs till early afternoon, and these guys, their plates are full. They're talking about everything from quail to elk to bear to hogs to you name it. So they have a lot on their plate. And when catfish comes up, people have to realize that it's a very, very small component of what they have to administer.
Yeah. And Glenn, you flew up from Florida for that meeting in June, and it really resonated with them. But I've learned a lot from talking to Jeremy and Justin and Aaron to be the spokesperson for BHA. And one of the things that I just sent the commission is they were worried about the loss of revenue in commercial fishing. They completely ignored the loss of revenue
for recreational,
for not just recreational, but tournament fishing.
Well, yeah.
I went back and did some research and found some studies from 3 different universities that were studying current sport fishing tournaments.
Right.
In freshwater, not saltwater. And we're studying, and then there was one paper where someone in Kentucky was advocating from the university. She was actually from the University of Tennessee, but she was advocating that we need more freshwater sport fish tournaments in Kentucky to generate local economies, greater revenue. And when I went through those 4 different university studies, it really looks like to me, and I sent this to our commissioners as a follow-up from the testimony. I gave testimony for my group, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, for a second commission meeting. I did it in June, and you and I were both there, Glenn, to give testimony, and Jeremy was there to give testimony. But I gave testimony again just this past Friday, and then I followed up with a very detailed paper that it took me a long time to write. It looks like the state of Kentucky is losing at least $1.4 million a year in tournament catfish revenue, and the commissioners were worried about commercial fishing revenue lost. It pales in comparison to the amount of sport fishing catfish tournament revenue lost. And
so the tournament revenue loss, Mike, is, and as you mentioned, it's worth millions of dollars. The recreational part of catfishing is worth tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to not only Kentucky, but every state that has a good catfish fishery. You have to understand that the recreational fishing industry is a $50 billion plus industry. And catfishing, the catfish segment is now the second largest of the recreational fishing industry, second largest segment, just behind bass. So imagine the revenue that a state loses if they don't have a healthy fishery.
Well, let's just talk about the loss of Monsters on the Ohio.
Yeah,
Monsters on the Ohio ended in 2021, and you're going to show some charts tonight, Glenn. I think that show that our highest trophy catfish harvest was in 2015-16. Well, guess what? In 2016, we had the highest number of tournament fishers on that river in that tournament. We had 192 boats. And
let me bring that up.
Yeah, that's yes. So any of those charts, stop on any of those charts. If you look on the left-hand side of those charts, you'll see it says 15-16. And that's the highest year. And if you back up a couple slides, so that right there is, that's flatheads. But anybody who's watching this will see that it shows in 15-16 was the highest amount. And these charts are from the Department of Fish and Wildlife, Dave Dreves, the fisheries director, and he shows this is based on the harvest of trophy fish, and you can read that on the left there, number of trophy catfish kept by commercial fishers. It was highest in 15-16. Well, our highest number of tournament catfishers was in 16, 192 boats in Monsters in the Ohio. And then as you look at this chart, it falls off until 2021, 2022, 2023. And in 2021, guess what happened? We canceled Monsters on the Ohio, and Aaron basically retired as a producer of a tournament. Now we have a new tournament that goes out of Owensboro, but it's about 40% the size that Monsters on the Ohio was. So we got about 40% of the revenue. And that's the email that I sent to the commissioners and to the Fish and Wildlife Commission, and the chair of the Fish and Wildlife Commission, Dr. Carl Kleinert, responded to me today to thank me for that. But I showed him where at the height of that tournament, it should have generated 2.8 million. And based on the smaller tournament that's there now, that tournament might generate 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. So that the Davies County, Kentucky, and Owensboro, the city, the major city that's in that county that's on the river that hosted the tournament, is losing approximately 1.4 million in recreational angling and tournament fishery annually.
That's just one event in one city.
Yes, sir. I am so glad you said that. Thank you.
That's just one event in one city.
And it's because they're prostituting the resource. They're taking trophy wild caught fish and putting them in pay lakes. And
there are so many great fisheries in the state of Kentucky if they let them mature and if they just leave them alone as far as these commercial guys. And again, it's the pay lakes. It's the pay lake operators that are taking from these public resources and denying not only the recreational fishermen, but denying the states the ability to enjoy a robust recreational fishing economic impact, whether it be recreational fishing, whether it be tournament fishing, what have you. But I mean, I want people to understand these charts. That blue line, as you see, dips down quite a bit. If they had the regulations throughout the state for the 1/35 from the beginning of where they're showing this chart, that's that orange line that you're seeing. So you could see the difference that 1/35 means to these fisheries if they weren't in place. Now, I want to get with Justin and Jeremy here.
I was just
Justin, you know a lot about the pay lake operators, and Jeremy the same. The pay lake operators are operating, what are they, roughly about 2 or 3 acre lakes? Give us a little bit of background on how these people operate.
Yeah, and I've seen both sides because I grew up at a pay lake my family owned. Now, That being said, it was nothing like it is today. Back then, it was mostly farm raised. Yeah, it was mostly farm raised channel cat. People came, they caught them, they used water bugs, topper worms, night crawlers, chicken liver, and they caught their eater fish and took them home and ate them.
You'd have an occasional
yeah,
bigger fish in there mixed in, but it wasn't like it was you lined elbow to elbow, bobber to bobber, and you have your 10-foot space to fish out of. It just wasn't like that.
And now it switched over, and that's when I seen the switch over, and I seen people start stocking big fish, and 2 days later the whole lake be just floating with dead fish. Yeah. I said, this ain't for me.
Would you guys agree that they've more or less have brought in these trophy-sized catfish as far as to sensationalize for marketing of their pay lakes, and they're just simply using these things? Yeah, they're just simply using these things to draw people in.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, it's gambling.
Yeah, of course it is.
That's the biggest issue. And my theory on it is they don't need these. I think what burns me up the most about it is they're taking fish from the public waters that we all have to, and everybody else out there has to buy a license to catch. And they are going and taking these fish to a private pay lake, charging people to fish, and they don't even have to buy a license to catch the fish that we have to buy a license to catch.
Yeah. Well, actually, the recreational fishing, manufacturers also pay an excise tax for everything that they sell that goes towards, public fisheries as well. So I mean, it's the resources, the monies that the states and the Fed are getting. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and Glenn, it's great that you bring that up, because that was part of what we sent to our Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources with our detailed analysis was, when you look at the number of boats that would fish in these recreational, the tournament fishing industry is governed by recreational regulations. It's not has nothing to do with the commercial regulations. So those recreational anglers have to buy a license. And if you look at what you were talking about just now, Glenn, is Dingell-Johnson. So we have two laws at the federal level. We have Pittman-Robertson, which is about hunting, and we have Dingell-Johnson, which is about fishing. And those laws govern excise taxes. And excise taxes exist on, and most people will not know this, so I'm going to give a very short explanation. When you buy boat gas, a certain amount of that purchase is why that boat gas is so expensive. Is a certain amount of that purchase goes to an excise tax called Dingell-Johnson. It's actually called the Recreational Sport Fishing Restoration Act. And the Recreational Sport Fishing Restoration Act was done years and years and years ago. But what it does is it puts a small tax on every rod and reel, every fishing lure, every boat, every trailer, every lure, every, anything you buy at a bait and tackle shop, which is very near and dear to, Mr. Chase's heart. There's an excise tax on that. And that goes to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Actually, it goes to the Department of Interior and they hold it. It goes to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. And then the state of Kentucky can apply for a grant against that money that came out of our pockets. Yep. And then use that money to improve our sport fishing, not commercial fishing, to improve our sport fishing habitat and our sport fishes. And so when you have a recreational tournament like you gentlemen are engaged in, people buy licenses, they pay for boat fuel, they buy bait and tackle, it's
hotels,
immense,
restaurants,
restaurants. All of those hotels and restaurants are not included in the excise tax, but that is also part of what hits the local economy. Yeah. The bottom line is that here's the bottom line, and I'm going to be blunt. We're not trying to put any commercial fishers out of business. We love you guys.
Well,
we want pay lakes to be stocked with agricultural fish that were raised in a aquaculture farm. Put in it, yes. Quit.
Well, Mike, there's also the opportunity for the pay lakes. Okay, and some may hate me for saying this, but so be it. It's realistic. The reality of it is that there are certain states out there that consider blues or flatheads to be invasive, and they will not change their mind because I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example. Maryland, the Chesapeake Conservation Commission, they just classified blues as invasive because of the blue crab. Now, we disagreed with that. We fought that because the percentage that they found that were eating blue crab were about 4%. It was really a low number. But no matter what, you have an industry that is overriding everything else, and that's why it becomes invasive. So if a Pay Lake, the aquaculture to create a cottage industry to raise their own trophy catfish, I think would be the best of everything. But
and Glenn, they over harvested crab and they just need something to blame it on. So blame it on an invasive species, right?
Well, blame it on they just found a demand for it.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right.
Jeremy and Justin, that's a good point. But here's the thing: it's not an invasive species here.
And,
and behind you, Glenn, you have the word Kentucky over your shoulders, and we're talking about Kentucky right now. And here's the deal. I mean, we are 4 Pay Lakes that stock themselves and get their fish from aquaculture. That helps out so many industries in Kentucky. It keeps the Pay Lakes flush. But here's the thing. The sport fishermen and the tournament fishermen put so much more money into the Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources in Kentucky than commercial fishermen. And we're not trying to put commercial fishermen out of business. But the bottom line is commercial fishermen don't put anywhere near the amount of money that sport fishers put into the Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources. The department's budget is 50% license sales, 35% grant monies through Pittman Robertson and Dingle Johnson. So 85% of the department's budget comes from hunting and fishing licenses and Dingle Johnson, Pittman Robertson license sales. So if you look at that, the people that are buying fishing licenses, not commercial fishing licenses, because there's only 80 to 88 of them, depending on the briefing that you listen to, there are tens of thousands. Actually, I'm sorry. There's over 600,000 sport fishers in Kentucky that buy a license.
I think they said it was
so we're undervaluing the upsetting point. That's right, 750,000. The part that's upsetting to me personally, and I'm not speaking for my organization right now, is we are undervaluing the public wild caught fishing to a commercial fishing community. There are hundreds of thousands of people buying sport fishing licenses, and there are thousands of tournament fishermen, probably close to 1,000 tournament cat fishermen in Kentucky. And we're undervaluing that, and it's wrecking what we've got going on. Show that chart again where our trophy fish have gone down over the last 7 years. That wasn't due to sport fishing. That blue line was not due to sport fishing. It was due to commercial fishing.
Yeah, based upon their own reporting.
Right, and because of that, we no longer have Monsters on the Ohio. We no longer have a tournament in Owensboro that generated $2.8 million.
Monsters on the Ohio was
JKV's gone out of Ohio. That was another one out of Owensboro. You're going to continue to lose clubs.
At the height, Monsters on the Ohio was a great ran tournament. Great guy running it. Fought for conservation. As long as Justin has and everybody else. Remember the Blue Wave. Don't forget about thinking, what is it, 200 and something people?
I'm going to be honest with you. I love fishing Monsters on the Ohio. I did well in it every year. I finished in top 5 twice, and the worst finish I had was 10th. And the reason I quit fishing it wasn't because of the tournament. Aaron did a great job. Well-ran tournament. It was fun. It was the fishing, the quality. If I'm going to drive 5 hours and get hotel rooms, gas, food,
you're dropping easily $1,000, $1,500 on
$1,500 easy
per team
for a tournament. I'm going to go on farther south.
That's just your entry fee, your gas, and your food
Yeah, I mean,
for guys
and
like me.
yeah, and that's the reason I quit fishing. And that's the reason a lot of guys quit fishing.
We got, I'm looking at the chat here. Stephen Paul Hanna says, our tournament alone, we have 30 or more people each year buy a Kentucky license just because they are fishing that tournament. And he's speaking of, I'm guessing,
Rising Sun.
He's got Rising Sun, yeah.
Around for many years.
Yeah,
Out of Indiana, shares Kentucky waters. What was there? 184 boats this year.
Yeah.
Justin.
Yeah, he said we almost ended Rising Sun during that same time time frame.
You know what though? It shows. I mean, the graph that you were showing shows out of 184 teams. I don't know how many 2-man to 3-man lady teams. We had some decent fish caught, but the biggest fish out of that tournament, the 2-day tournament, was 49 pounds. 49 pounds was big fish.
Yeah.
You get that 5-8 years ago, 10 years ago.
It wasn't. I mean, it wasn't. Even, it was.
I mean, we had
Way
what,
better
60 pounders coming into that tournament on a regular basis.
50 pounds.
Steve Paul Hanna is saying 49.5.
Okay.
Yeah. And Jeremy, if I can interrupt you, what the people that are watching need to realize is those charts that Glenn, the president of ACA, is showing, those charts are from the fisheries division of the state of Kentucky.
Right.
Yeah. That's not
we
something.
didn't make these charts up. These
that's
were
not something we made up.
Presentation given on Friday.
That's right. Those came from the Fish and Wildlife Commission presentation on Friday, showing the precipitous drop of very large fish. and when people like you guys that do these tournaments are catching smaller and smaller and smaller fish, I'm just going to ask a question here because I'm not an expert. The reason my group, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, is against this is putting trophy fish into pay lakes is not fair chase. It's prostituting the resource. That's why we're against it.
You might as well just go pin up a deer and high fence it and shoot it in the backyard.
Right. So one of our heroes in conservation is President Theodore Roosevelt. And President Roosevelt went down south, and they had a bear tied to a tree, and he refused to shoot it. And that's how the legend of Teddy Roosevelt and teddy bears.
The teddy bears, yeah.
The teddy bears became, you guys should be patted on the back, and I don't need to rub you and shine you on, but you're ending tournaments where trophy fish are not available because you're conservationists. You don't want to fish in places where the big fish are not available, and the economic loss is a big deal, but I'm going to applaud you for being catfish conservationists in this respect. So thank you.
Well, there's a lot of people that need to be applauded, and to your point, Mike, is that a lot of anglers throughout the nation have refused to fish Kentucky waters because of their lack of regulations. And I tried to make the point to the commission. I tried to make the point to the commission in December and again in June that the economic loss that the state is seeing is significant because of the lack of regulations and because the pay lakes are more or less prostituting the public resources. To your point again regarding commercial fishing, speaking for myself and I know a lot of anglers, throughout the nation, and members of our conservation committee as well. Folks like Ken Smith and Charlie Crook. These guys know their stuff. Commercial fishing is actually necessary to keep our fisheries in check, but it needs to be done like anything responsibly. If it's done responsibly, if the states take into consideration, what has to be done to keep their fisheries in balance, then you're going to have a healthy situation within the state fisheries. If you go down to Alabama and you go into the lakes that they have there, people love to go there because their fisheries are well managed and there's trophy catfish everywhere.
And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but a lot prior to 2012, Alabama was where all the pay lakes up here got their monster fish.
Yeah.
Commercial fishermen are the one that got together in Alabama and said, we're not going to have this. we're going to stop this. And that's what Alabama has turned around dramatically in a short period of time. It's not what it used to be, but it's way better. Yes.
Yeah,
We're
it's improved.
we're not. So none of us on this meeting here and in the comment section and everywhere else, I don't think any of them's against pay lakes.
No,
It's and you don't
No.
hear people showing up at these meetings saying ban commercial fishing. Nobody's against commercial fishing for the harvest of catfish. It's do it reasonably, responsibly, and stop exploiting it. It's that simple.
Yeah, that's exactly
And-
it. That's
and
exactly
Jer-
the
Jeremy-
exploitation both of the commercial fishers and the pay lakes. If everybody did things responsible, to everyone's point regarding, aquaculture, to create a cottage industry to raise these trophy catfish, to go to other states where they are invasive and be limited as far as what they can bring from those states. And Mike, you were saying earlier, we're talking about Kentucky, and that's the point. The point is to stop taking fish from Kentucky to go to these pay lakes when you have that commodity available from other states that consider it to be invasive. You go to Georgia, Georgia's regulations say that you catch a flathead, you got to leave it on the shore. You put it back in the water, you're actually breaking their law.
well,
It's
let's
horrible.
let's
but
just
it's a fact.
let's talk about. Hey, Glenn, let's talk about the good news.
Well,
one of
and
the
that's-
re- one of the reasons. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. What I wanted to talk about is some of these other regulations and the process and where we need to what else and where else we need to address these issues, because Ohio has got a lot of big pay lakes. Guys, you had mentioned Indiana, and Indiana has a discussion coming up soon. We're going after and trying to get meetings with folks in Arkansas, in Mississippi, Louisiana, Missouri. These are all great fisheries for the most part that need to stay great. And there's a lot of effort being made in Indiana right now. And I think that what's happening in Kentucky will carry over Indiana. You've got a great regulations in Tennessee, which the one and only Bill Dance had a lot to do with. I alerted Bill to this. He's thrilled to hear about Kentucky. And it's a contiguous state, and it helps the Mississippi River as well as the Kentucky River going through Tennessee. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about some of the other things that we need to get accomplished. This was and really talk about what was accomplished on Friday, which
I was hoping you would say that. I
want to talk about what we got accomplished on Friday. But I also, because there's a lot of people that, I've seen comments as far as, well, you have to do this too, and you have to do this, and you have to do that. People have to understand that we had a chance here to move the needle a little bit. You're not going to get your entire wish list. And these regulations are not going to happen in months or years, or, it could take generations, so be ready for it. I mean, it's a long-term objective to get things, in shape.
Glenn,
And it's folks like you're seeing here. It's folks like you're seeing here that have devoted themselves to doing that.
Let me say something before you guys jump into what
go ahead.
transpired and start talking about the ACA. Glenn, what do you say? About 3 years they've been around?
Yeah.
Roughly. Is that right? Mike, how long has the BHA been around?
20. Oh Lord. I think we became a national. We were national on the scene in 2014, but
you guys just recently, this, like you said, came on the radar with fighting for this cause of wild caught fish being exploited and moved. There's a lot of people that didn't know what the ACA was 3 years ago, didn't know what y'all were doing. And I want to say that you've got this guy right here sitting here on a screen with Glenn, which a lot of people never thought would happen. Okay. We're here because of a common goal to fight for regulations. So when it comes time and it says, hey guys, we need letters sent, we need business owners to do something. We need for Kentucky, for Indiana, for whatever it is, don't just get on and blast everybody. Get on and support the overall cause.
Yeah.
Hey, Jeremy, your point is so well taken.
You just, there's two groups right here, the ACA and the BHA. Support both of them, support one of them, support it, support something, because behind the scenes, Glenn's not going to tell you what's going on and everything. You don't show you don't show your hand. It makes sense after you talk about it, after you see it, and then you see something like this get accomplished. It's not just because of the ACA's letters, but it helps. You flew up twice. It was well received. It was appreciated. Mike, appreciated. You're showing up and you get up and speaking. I can't get up and speak like you can. I can get on here and talk to anybody, but I can't get up and give that professional speech and make it sound that and deliver it like that. And then I go back to the whole thing. If this guy right here next to me can get on and talk to anybody else, because he's had his differences with maybe Glenn, the ACA, whoever, but he sees an overall cause and what it's doing, that's important.
Hey,
well,
all I know is I got plenty of Tupperware for him.
So here's the thing, man. If
If
people that are dedicated to public lands, public waters, and public resources like BHA are not willing to take up the torch and run with it and listen to guys like Jeremy and Justin and Glenn and Aaron and get an education. Get an education from you guys, because you have years of experience in this area. Always public lands, public waters, public resources. And so when you're taking a public resource, which is a wild caught trophy fish, and you're putting it in what basically amounts to a high fence farm, and it's going to die whether anybody catches it or not. If no one catches it, I'm really proud. Fish are used in Pay Lakes, and
Mike, we lost
you
there for a little bit.
He comes from that heritage and has decided to stop doing that because it's not right. So I should, if I could. Okay, I'm sorry. You got me now?
Yeah.
No, we got you. Yep. Yeah, your audio broke up there
Justin.
for about 5 or 10
trying
seconds.
to hug Justin. Listen, there's a lot of guys that come from Fish and Pay Lakes and just don't do it anymore because it's not right. In the manner that it's done.
Are we back? All right. So
no, you're there. Okay, Mike, you tend to freeze up a little bit, so I'm not sure if you're there or not. So
okay. All right. I'm sorry. Well, I'm doing the best connection I can tonight. I was on all night last night
you got nothing
with
to be
Montana,
sorry about.
But,
yeah.
So I was saying
I
was saying that our organization, Kentucky BHA, and actually Indiana BHA and Ohio BHA, I've met with them because they want to jump in and help on these issues. We're being educated by people like Justin and Jeremy and you, Glenn and Aaron and others. But we need to celebrate the fact that Kentucky just made some great regulation changes that are going to take effect probably February, March, and April by the time they get them through the legislature. So the 4x40, if you can show that chart, Glenn,
that's what I'm going to bring
the 4x40, it used to be you could by regulation in Kentucky, you could take one more to the left. Yes. So
that's the end result. I want to show people what we
this there. Is what that's good.
Before Friday.
Before you guys hold on. I'm gonna jump in here. Everybody that's in the comment section, share this daggone video. If there's not enough people on here watching, share the video 100,000 times. Okay, please.
Okay,
we need you to. Yeah. We want you to.
So this was prior to Friday's regulation reform.
Right. So Glenn showed up in December and June, and Jeremy and Justin and Aaron got Kentucky BHA involved, and then I went to an event called Muster in the Marsh up on Lake Erie, and it's really a conference, but we don't call it that in backcountry hunters and anglers. BHA calls things rendezvous or musters as a tip of the hat to like our old mountain men. So if we're out west, we call them rendezvous. If we're east, we call them musters. And so we mustered with our friends from all the eastern states, and I brought this up to them in Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio, and they totally got it. And so before Friday, Kentucky has, our laws are called Kentucky's KSRs, Kentucky or KRSs, Kentucky Revised Statutes. Below Kentucky Revised Statutes, we have things that are called KARs, Kentucky Admin Regulations. And so the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources can set their own admin regulations. And as of Friday, what you see in front of you, the blue line was the 1/35, 1/28. So 1/35 applies to 1/35 blue, 1/35 flathead, and 1/28 you see there is channel. And then the yellow is the 4/40 that everybody remembers, but 4/40 just applies to blue and flathead.
Now, I want to make a point so that people understand the 4/40. There are approximately, as a matter of fact, I think it was in June they made mention of this. There were approximately 200 and some odd licenses, commercial licenses issued in Kentucky for commercial fishers. Out of that, only 15 were given that special permit for the 4/40, and of the 15 that were available, I think 11 were in use. So people need to understand that it's not every single commercial fisherman that has the ability to go fish over 4/40. It's a very, very small group. It's a specialty license they've got to get.
And Glenn, I'm great you pointed it out, but you can read that in the chart. It says 4/40 inches, and then it says parentheses less than 15 licenses issued. But the Kentucky,
I added that.
The Kentucky admin regulation that governs that says that it's 15. So it's approximately let's use finite numbers. If all 15 licenses are issued, then those 15 commercial fishers can take 4/40 blues or flatheads, and they can take 4/30 channels every single day. And one of our commissioners from the 3rd District, Ralph Swallows, was very upset about that in the June meeting. And he said, "You mean to tell me that we are potentially losing 60 trophy blues or flatheads a day south of the Cannelton Lock and Dam?" And he was very upset about that, potentially. And he was upset. And so when you see the green, that's our biggest lakes. That's Kentucky, Barkley, and Cumberland. And it's also the Mississippi south of where the Ohio reaches the Mississippi. And if you would please go to the next chart.
This is the big deal.
Yeah, this is what got approved Friday, and we're so proud. Look, man, I've been super critical when it's necessary to be critical of our commission. I've been super critical of our commissioner when it's necessary to be. But I've been supportive of them, and I've been a champion of them when it's also appropriate. And I'm going to say good things about them right now. Dave Dries, our fisheries director, recommended that we basically take everything off the table that was unlimited, which was Lake Barkley, Kentucky Lake, and Lake Cumberland, and put it in a 35-inch limit for blues and flatheads and a 28-inch limit for channels, which is the same that it is for sport fishers, which was already the law above the Cannelton Lock and Dam. So what you see now also is that it went below where the Mississippi reaches the Ohio. Thank you, Glenn. Used to be green. On the last chart, it was green, which is on the far left-hand side of what I can see. Thank you for flipping back. Now flip right. It's now blue. So below where the Ohio River meets the Mississippi in Kentucky waters is now 35 and 28. But what they can't show you in these charts is the language. The language actually says that the 4/40 now applies only to the main stem of the Ohio River south of the Cannelton Lock and Dam. And that's a great thing. But I've been educated by Jeremy and Justin that it's going to get fished even harder because of that. And I'm okay with that. But we've removed the tributaries. If you go back one more slide and then come forward a slide again to show the people that are watching what it was. look at all the yellow tributaries that were also available to the 4 over
Well,
40.
Look at that.
Now
And
go-
you've got
Now go
Mississippi.
and the green was unlimited. So
You've got the Mississippi, you've got Barkley and Kentucky Lake, you've got limited but highly 4 over 40 on the Green River, and then you also have Lake Cumberland. Now,
so this was good stuff, right, Justin? This was
Yeah.
good stuff.
Especially with the Licking
Yeah.
River being all the way off.
yeah, the licking is
That's our
completely shut off.
So everybody understands now, okay, what was passed on Friday and what
It's
still
good.
has to go get approved is not only good, it's fantastic, because now you have a 1 over 35 throughout the entire state of Kentucky. 1 over 35, just like Tennessee is. Tennessee's 1 over 20 or 34.
34.
34,
But-
yeah.
Right, 1 over 34 in Tennessee. But that small yellow section of the Ohio River is the only area that is not now the 1 over 35.
And
Now, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't. Yeah, I just got
It's
to
the
clarify.
only thing
it
that's
is
left
that
4 over 40.
it's left 4 over 40. The 1 over
That's the only
35
thing
still applies to everybody in the entire Ohio River right now. Okay. It's those special permits, those 15 licenses or up to 15 licenses that can fish the 4 over 40.
Yeah.
That's 4
So the
flathead,
entire state,
4 blues, and 4 channels over 30.
28, isn't it?
30.
Is it
30
30?
on the
Right,
4 over
okay.
40.
Yeah,
Yep.
the Kentucky admin regulation that governs those 15 special trophy permits, it's 4 over 40 for blues and
Yeah.
flatheads and 4 over 30 for channels.
So there's
Right.
3
And-
different species that you can get that they can still take a good amount of. Again, nobody's stopping commercial fishing. Nobody's in that area. They can still get 12 big fish a day, right? Per day.
Yeah.
On that Candleton Dam down in the yellow section. They just stopped the unlimited in Kentucky Lake, Barkley, and Cumberland. I don't know what really Cumberland was heavily hit or not, but I know Kentucky and Barkley were absolutely crushed
Decimated.
for
Yeah.
years. And you wonder why you
Well-
have a huge population of Asian carp there. Huge.
You know, the bottom line is that this was a very, very important win, and there's so many people that need to be thanked for all their efforts throughout the years, especially the last I'll call it 18 months, because the push was really on. We had the window of opportunity with Dave Dries proposing the various regulations that we're seeing now, and certainly we owe a lot of thanks to Dave and the entire commission, for listening and for understanding the need for the regulation change. And we got it. Now, I've been seeing in chat a lot of people are talking about enforcement, and that is its own challenge. Sometimes, as they say, be careful what you wish for. Well, we can have
let's
all
talk
the
about
best
enforcement.
regulations. Well, let me just finish my train of thought here. Is that enforcement is a big issue, and quite frankly, it's a totally different issue. But the regulations that we are proposing, we're talking to states about krill limits. We're talking about the pay lakes as far as taking from public resources. Or originating from public resources. We're talking about the transportation of live fish within the state. We're talking about fines that need to be larger than they are now, because a lot of people, they ignore them because they consider the fine to be simply a cost of doing business because they're so small. Marking their commercial gear properly in the water, not letting it soak for days and days or weeks and weeks, and more or less abandoning this stuff. There are so many other things that we have talked to Kentucky and other states about, and these things are going to take time. What was accomplished here is a great thing. What needs to be accomplished is so much more, and know that you have people like Justin and Jeremy and Mike, the ACA, people like Era Wheatley and Steve Douglas and a lot of the names that I mentioned before, Rob Benefield and Scott Kress, Chris DeBow and Chris Lee, and there's just so many other people that have been active in getting this accomplished. And there's so many people in other regions of the country that are active in getting things handled there. And we're trying to help where we can, and we're trying to build relationships with the various commissions and fisheries chiefs in multiple states. And it's a tough task, but the bottom line is that we all have to work together. If you see something, if you hear about something that we can help with, that Mike and his group can help with, or with any of the anglers can help with, we need to hear it. We can,
Glenn, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, so one of the things that we learned that, of course, we learned late because we should learn late is that our conservation officers had a months-long investigation into pay lakes. And they just had a press release. It came out on Kentucky.gov, and then the Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources in Kentucky echoed that press release. And the title of that press release is Kentucky Fish and Wildlife Probe into Pay Lake Practice Yields 63 Charges Brought on 28 Different Facilities. Now, it's really hard, and Jeremy and Justin and I were really diving deep into that before we got on this call to try to figure out
the language. The language of it is the language of that press release isn't.
We're trying to figure out how many facilities got investigated and how many charges were brought, but it doesn't really matter if you look at it from a top-down perspective. The department's paying attention, and
nobody
going to be
made
a
them
huge
do that.
advocate of my
They did it
department
themselves.
Well, I think the voice.
When the conservation officers are put, that's right. Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, like all of you guys, I was just getting ready to say that exactly, Justin. Exactly. The voices that you guys have had is what pushed them to do that investigation. And let's talk about one more thing that nobody's really talked about. The Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources in Kentucky also modified water bodies that are open to commercial fishing under 301 KAR 150. They closed a bunch of water that is really fish rearing, brooding, where the those charts don't show it. It's a whole different issue, Dave. Or
the next one does.
Glenn,
no, not that one yet.
It's this right here.
Yeah. Okay.
They closed.
That
Okay,
go back.
That was
go back
open.
one. Go back to the.
All right, hang on a minute. This is what was open, and this is what
you
they
got
closed.
it. Good job. There you go. Exactly. So the department also, under Dave Drees, and I'm really a big fan of Dave, our fisheries director, they look back on, because our commercial fishers are required to report where they're fishing and what they're fishing. And they reported that they're not fishing certain bodies of water, which is where our baby fish grow. These are smaller tributaries where fish are being, where the reproductive cycle they're natural hatcheries. Thank you very much for that language. They're natural hatcheries. They've closed them to commercial fishing, and only because they took the time to do the research to figure out that there's very little actual commercial fishing going on there. Maybe, and Dave said in the commission meeting, maybe there's 4 to 5 people fishing that, maybe 10 to 12 days a year. It's not enough for us to leave it open. We need to close it and let it be a nursery for our baby fish. And I was so happy to hear that. And that also happened. And I need to give credit, and I would be remiss if I didn't also give credit for closing those fisheries that are not being used. That's important to the future of our fishery.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's all great stuff. It's all important stuff. It's things that and again, I'm a big fan as well of Dave Drees and Commissioner Storm and again the entire commission. in Kentucky. I think they realize that there's a problem, and I think that they are trying to. These guys have to walk a fine line. The commissioners have their constituents. The legislature has their constituents. They're hearing from all sorts of people, and understand too that commercial guys, they make a living. They feed their families with the efforts that they put forward every day. And not to defend the Pay Lakes, but they're a small business, and there's not a state in the union that is going to put a small business out of business. They need to reform the way they do business. And we need to I think, help move that needle. And if the Pay Lakes are going to operate legitimately, they need to be doing it without taking from public resources. So as mentioned, there is a lot more to get accomplished. This accomplishment on Friday was a big one.
Ohio needs to take a look at what Kentucky just did with their Pay Lakes and their investigation, and just apply common sense numbers to that in the Pay Lakes that are in Ohio.
Any state that has Pay Lakes, quite frankly, the Pay Lakes need to be regulated.
One thing I'm excited about it is, first, it's a good step, but not only does it help the fishermen in Kentucky, it's going to help the fishermen in every state around it. Because the first thing we're going to do when we go meet with Indiana is we're going to say, okay, now the state that you guys call a problem state, just move forward with regulation on the commercial side of it. Because, they're wanting
that Indiana commission, though, seemed like they were very open to.
And they are. That's why we're waiting now. We're waiting now for the DNR to come back to the NRC to bring back another proposal right now for the commercial side. They've already went
right. Indiana. Just so people know, Justin, in case they want to get involved, Indiana has had a one discussion meeting, and they're planning on another discussion meeting. And that's all they are. They're just discussions, and what they're doing is they're learning.
And they're
getting up to speed.
They moved what Josh Worth and them proposed. They moved that forward on the recreational side.
Right.
So that one already got moved forward. Then the NRC come back and said, well, we don't think that it's enough on the commercial side. They wanted them to come back and bring something back because they didn't put nothing in on the commercial side. And we was like, we can't do that. You know what I mean? And this is going to be great because it actually passed at a perfect time to where we can go back in there and say, hey, because Indiana's always said, well, we wait on Kentucky. Well, you ain't got to wait now.
Yeah.
Now it's your time to act. And
well, it's almost like a domino effect along these major waterways. When you have these contiguous states, that share some of these larger, the Mississippi, the Ohio, the Missouri, et cetera, and the regulations begin to change in one area, it tends they tend to look at it in other states and follow suit. So that and I think that Arkansas is very close to it. We're expecting Arkansas to revise the regulations this past year, but we're hoping that they're going to give it another look-see here shortly. Mike. You there? Mike?
Yeah, come on.
Hey, Glenn, can I say something?
There you are. Okay, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, you got me.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, can y'all hear? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I hate. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing.
He gone.
Might just lost him. We'll see. Give him a second here.
He'll come back.
Hannon, you're correct. I think so. Indiana will follow Kentucky. A lot of comments over here. Lee keeps commenting that the people need to step up on calling. And Justin always says, "What's the number? Who do you call, Justin? If you have
you always call the tip line.
Call the tip line. Documented, recorded, and they have to act. So if you
Yes.
have a Kentucky issue, not sending them on a goose chase, an actual issue that you can see and report, call the tip line, turn in a poacher, whatever. They respond.
Well,
have
it's a
Just
little different
just
in
so
Kentucky.
folks know, if you head on over to the ACA website, we have every state's tip line there. We've got a list of legislators. We've got every contact information that you need is there.
All right, Mike,
So-
you're rolling now. Go ahead.
Thanks, man. I this internet stuff. And here's the thing, man. My organization, Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, doesn't have a dog in this fight. We don't have a dog in the catfish fight. We don't have a dog in the quail fight. We don't have a dog in the grouse fight, in the elk fight, in the deer fight, in the turkey fight. Here's the deal. We have a dog in the public resource fight.
Yeah.
These catfish are a wild public resource. And here's something that I would say to everybody in the catfish community. Reach out to your Backcountry Hunters and Anglers chapter in your state. I've already alerted the Indiana and Ohio chapters because of my education, and my education came from Jeremy and Justin. Glenn, you and I met at the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife
Yep.
Resources Commission meeting in June, and you and I had some phone conversations before that meeting. But I am being educated as an advocate of wild public resources. America was based on a doctrine of what we call fair chase.
Yeah.
And this is not fair chase. You know,
Right.
we have an amazing system in the United States of America that has to do with the public domain. We have public parks, we have public lands, we have public waters. Me and my best friend Larry are going to go fish in England for salmon, and we have to pay for a spot on a river. That doesn't happen in the United States of America. This is wild public resource. So if you're listening to this and you have not reached out to your other conservation organizations, if you think this is just a catfish fight, you're wrong. This is
Right.
not just a catfish fight.
Yeah,
This is
I'll
a
tell you
fight
what,
for wild public resources.
you wouldn't see a state in the country allow commercial guys go out there and harvest deer to bring them onto a private farm so they could be shot like fish in a barrel.
From a public herd.
Yeah, from a public resource. You wouldn't see
That's
that
right.
for any other.
That's
know,
illegal.
Right.
Mhm.
So I mean, catfish
Yeah.
or fish in general.
For sport fish,
Yeah, I mean, cat. Look at people, and
Yeah.
I think the states are realizing this that catfishing is becoming big business. It's becoming big business, and if they fail to take care of their fisheries properly, if they continue to allow pay lakes and such to continue to rape public resources, the economic detriment that policy will cause is significant. And guys, to your point, let the pay lakes operate, but create your own cottage industry, raise your own trophy catfish, and have at it. But leave our public resources alone.
And they survived
the
100 years on doing that
raised.
before on farm raised fish.
Right. And the only
Amen.
reason is to bring in these trophy catfish is to sensationalize their offering.
Yeah.
They could have their tournaments and everything else with a tagged 3-ounce guppy. You catch it, you win. It doesn't have to be an 80-pound trophy catfish that has been now caught 6 or 7 times and is now ready to die, which they throw in a dumpster or they throw in the backwoods.
Some of
or
them
they feed to the
admit
vultures.
themselves. You catch them a few times and they just fall apart.
Right. Yeah. It's terrible. If
The bottom-
those that are
the bottom-
interested, excuse
Hey,
me one
Glenn,
second, Mike.
if I could
Those that
say
are
this-
interested, if you go to our Facebook page and scroll down, you'll see a video regarding pay lakes, and you'll see a pay lake operator, and I'm not going to give any names, but you'll see a Pay Lake operator actually admit to things that we've all known, but he came out publicly and admitted to this stuff, which was crazy to hear. But you'll see what happens to these catfish. You'll see the sores. You'll see them sitting in dumpsters. This is not the way our public resources should be treated. And we will continue to fight the fight. We will continue to join with folks like Justin and Jeremy and Mike and his organization and any other organization or individuals or groups that we can to move the needle, on the resources and catfishing. And that's what the ACA was created for. A lot of people did, kind of questioned us when we started this thing up, and we promised conservation efforts, and that's what our focus has been on. And we continue to do so. And as was pointed out earlier, we don't reveal a lot of what we're doing because we can't show our hand. But when we can strike, we strike, and we strike as hard as we can.
There is a lot that goes on behind closed doors, and it needs to, there's a lot that needs to be.
Yeah. And it's tough. It's time consuming. I mean, Mike, he's a wealth of information, and that wealth of information hasn't come from years and years and years. This man's been studying his butt off, for the past few months. And quite frankly, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with the information that you've gathered and know.
Well, last week I spent all Thursday down at the Legislative Annex working on this. Then I spent all day Friday at the commission meeting working on this and a few other things, but mainly this. And here's what I'll tell you. If you're in the catfish, it doesn't matter what portion of conservation you're in. The weird part of conservation in North America is there's catfish people, there's quail people, there's Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. There's the National Deer Alliance. There's the Wild Sheep Foundation. Everybody's for a species. Here's the deal. Pheasants Forever. Here's the deal. Backcountry Hunters and Anglers, my organization, is for public lands, public waters, access, and wild animals and fish for everyone. And I didn't become involved in this because I'm a catfisherman. I fish them, no doubt, and I eat them, no doubt. But a very good friend of mine is friends with Jeremy, and he introduced me to Justin. He introduced me to Glenn. And I went to my board of directors, and they introduced me to Aaron, which is another apology. You talk about a passionate conservationist for catfish. Aaron will fist fight you in the parking lot over catfish. But let me explain something to you.
And win.
My board of directors, when I explained to them this issue, voted unanimously to support you guys. And we have 2,800. There's not 2,800 catfishermen in Kentucky that would get on board who pay dues and memberships, but there are
the public resource.
And we support you, and we're fighting for you because
we appreciate that,
because it's a public resource, and you guys want it to also be fair chase public resource. And I think Indiana Backcountry Hunters and Anglers and Ohio Backcountry Hunters and Anglers and their leadership of both of those chapters, are friend of mine, are also with you because it's the right thing to do. Yeah, it's really easy to stand on a hill and say I'm right.
Well,
it's the right thing to do. We got to fix this fishery and get it right.
Yeah, the bottom line to the regulations, whether it be Kentucky or elsewhere, is it's common sense regulations. It's not pie in the sky stuff. It's realistic.
If sense was common,
it's
it wouldn't
necessary.
Make sense.
They're very, very realistic objectives that each state needs to look at. So, guys, I'm going to propose something. We're going to have a little bit of fun here with our members and those that have joined in for this year's Sea Ark boat raffle. As some may know, is that if you're a member of the ACA, if you got yourself a boat raffle ticket, you got a chance to win a great Sea Ark boat. We've got names that we're going to draw from. I've got it all staged here, and if those are in chat are part of the ACA, which we hope you are. If you're not, We encourage you to head on over to jointheaca.com and become a member. We could really use your support. But I'm going to bring up a list here real quick, if I may, and I'm going to draw a name. Justin, give me a number between 1 and 5. That's how many times I'm going to randomize this list.
3.
3 times. All right, guys, you heard it. There's 1. There's 2. And there's 3. And the winner is Jimmy Burton.
Oh, Sonny.
Jimmy Burton
Huh?
is this month's winner.
Huh?
Now, those that don't know, what we do is that if you're an ACA member, if you've got a raffle ticket or for the CR giveaway boat, what we decided to do, instead of having consolation prizes after the drawing, which will happen in February at the Catfish Conference in Kentucky, in Louisville, we figured that let's once a month give away something leading up to that. Well, you got to be in it to win it, Mike. So we decided to do this every month leading up to the giveaway, which will happen, like I said, at the Catfish Conference on February 24th. Hey, listen, if you haven't seen it yet, take a look at the layout for this year's Catfish Conference. It's going to be impressive. Steve Douglas and Herbie are doing a great job again. But we've got stuff from Monster lithium marine batteries. We've got Black Rifle coffee. We've got so many things. We got Tupperware to give away.
Oh, it's Justin's favorite.
I know.
Tupperware.
I know. On Tupperware. That's rig wrap for those that don't know.
Hey, I think Glenn said it best. He said, if I could be half as successful as the company Tupperware.
Yeah, right.
Long story.
Right. You can call me anything you want. It doesn't matter to me. But anyways, the point is that, the ACA, a couple things that people don't realize. The ACA was the first ever organization to organize an alliance of independent tournaments throughout the country. There's over 200 events in the ACA Tournament Alliance. And every time you fish one of those events, you up your chances to win that boat. Plus, there's great prizes for all the division winners at the end of the year. And that's all thanks to the great sponsors that we have. So those that support us, thank you. Those that are thinking about supporting us, we really, really would encourage you to become part of the organization. We really need the support. We're trying to do good. And
Hey,
we will every day.
Somebody could forego one fishing
You
trip
guys are doing
on the
great
Ohio
work,
River,
man.
and you pay for your fee for the ACA, and you pay for your fee for the BHA. One fishing trip to the river. The gas money's covered to join for an effort of people fighting for your river to be there in 20 years and actually be able to catch a fish in the wild.
And you got.
But it's not only that; it's like tonight, the prize package that what did I say, Jimmy Burton, that he won. That sucker's going to be probably close to $1,000 worth of stuff. By the time all the sponsors send him all the stuff, they send him directly. It's an impressive package every month. So you got a chance. You got a chance for that. You got a chance for the boat. You got a chance for all sorts of other stuff. So we try to make it, a lot of fun for the members as well. We try to bring in some things. We've got a discount program that, I've saved a bunch of money using that. So, there's little things, but again, our main focus is conservation.
It looks good when you can walk in front of the commission and say, hey, I'm here.
Thank you, Micah.
With, 16,000 members behind me. You know what I mean? There's strength in numbers.
Well, of course there is. And that's why we say, that join. Help us. If we all work together, we've worked together on other things that have been successful, and it takes everybody. There's no way that the ACA or the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Association group can do it alone. You need to have that support from the membership and from the community, and that's what drives
it. Glenn.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Glenn, to your point, if we would have disagreed with you at the December and June meetings, these regulations would have never gone through. You know,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
conservation groups working together and seeing common ground, and you know, it's a stretch. My group normally works on big game, and you know, you guys are
Well,
like,
Mike,
these are
you know,
wild fish and they're being caught in public waters, and we're like, holy
Just
shit, we
made
need to
sense for you guys.
just
Well,
catfish
yeah,
get
it
pretty
made sense.
catfish get pretty big
It
too,
made-
Mike.
It's catfish
well-
today. It could be coons tomorrow. It could be, you know, something. What's next?
Exactly.
We could
Jeremy
we could
and
put we
Jason,
could put
Jeremy and Justin, your points are perfect. But the
we
bottom
could
line
put like a
is,
set of antlers on Jeremy and you know let him run around.
Yeah, that'd be a big go. I guess.
Big target.
It'd still
Big
be
bull
a
whale.
it'd be a very small deer. But the bottom line is this. The bottom line is, and you said it about 5 times in your monologue there, when we work together.
Yeah.
When we work
It's-
together.
The bottom line.
We
That's the bottom
don't
line.
normally have we don't ante up at the catfish table and gamble at the catfish table. We don't normally jump in at the catfish table. But these are wild public resource trophy fish. And when Jeremy, Justin, and Brian Mackey and some of the other people that pay attention to this, Trey Webb is another one in Kentucky, said, hey, you need to get involved and you need to call this guy named Glenn. You need to have a conversation with this guy named Glenn. Our chapter gets behind you because these issues matter. If we can do this to wild caught trophy fish, we can do it to something else.
Yeah, and I'm
And
sure
we gotta
and I'm sure
stop.
Mike, I'm sure your organization also works with other organizations as well. Like we work with the American Sport Fishing Association, the the Congressional Conservation
Sportsman's
Foundation,
Foundation.
Sportsman
CSF,
Foundation. Thank
Congressional
you.
Sportsman
Yes.
Foundation. And
I mean,
Glenn, it looks like
all-
this. It looks like this.
Exactly.
It does not look
Exactly.
like this. It
No.
looks like this.
We're
We
all on
get
the same
together and
page.
work together.
We're all on the same page,
Yeah,
and we
And
share
when we
information.
do,
Yeah. I mean,
And when
we're
we
on
do-
everything that goes out of the American Sport Fishing Association that has to do with our fisheries and conservation. The ACA is a signatory to Washington on. You know, that's, you know, we have accomplished, and I'm not trying to pat anybody on the back. I'm talking about the entire organization as a whole. That means you as a member, you as a supporter. We have made tremendous progress in a very, very short period of time. And we need to continue to do that. And that was the objective from the very, very beginning. So I think people are beginning to realize that what we set out to do, we're doing. And it's going to take time. And that's one of the things that I got to stress to folks, because when we made the post on Friday about this regulation, you know, I saw a lot of things. Well, now you got to work in Indiana. Now you got to ban pay lakes. Now you got to work on enforcement. Yeah, krill limits. We know we have a wish list, a laundry list of regulations that we want to get passed in every possible state that we can.
Nobody's
it's
going to
gonna
ban
take
pay
time.
lakes, though, unless DNR deems necessary to do
No.
something. None of us here are saying ban pay lakes.
But you
None of
know,
us are here saying stop commercial fishing.
No,
or ban
correct.
commercial fishing.
right. And
We
here's
need to
another
do
thing.
Everything needs to be done responsibly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And here's another thing. You know, a lot of guys in the chat is talking about enforcement. Well, enforcement's going to be an issue. We know that, but that's where your guys' voices plays a factor. You guys can be a part of that. When
Yeah,
you see
tip
something,
lines.
make them calls. When you,
Tip
you know,
lines.
email, phone. I mean, you have to be. That's where you guys can do something to help the cause. I
Yeah,
mean,
if
it
you
takes
see
everybody.
if you see an apparatus in the water that is been there forever,
Check it.
let them know.
Let somebody know.
Check
to
it.
look at at
Let
least
somebody know
mark
it's
it.
there, because a lot of these states now, there's regulation coming out. They have to be properly identified. They have to be checked. They have to be checked
Well,
properly.
let me jump in here. That's something else that happened at this commission meeting. They actually passed regulations to
Yes.
further restrict commercial fishing apparatus. So if you don't think your voice has been heard for months and months, the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources Fish and Wildlife Commission only meets 4 times a year. And I'm not going to lie to you, there's things they don't do well. And we try like hell to help them, and they try like hell to do better. But all of a sudden, they're doing better on commercial fishing and reduction of trophy catfish being pulled out of wild waters. Also, in this meeting on Friday, they enacted even more restrictive regulations on commercial fishing devices and commercial fishing methods. So,
Right.
for people that say like, well, it's too much of a bother, I don't think I should spend my time, being a person that goes to my commissioner and talks to them. You're wrong. You're flat ass wrong. You need to go to the person that is working. The Indiana Department of Natural Resources, fine. If you're Tennessee Wildlife and fine. If you're Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources, fine. If you're Ohio DNR, fine. Go to them and make sure those officials know what you think and what is important to you, because democracy is a participation sport. If you don't participate, it's going to run you the flip over.
Now, let me make a point to people that
really,
let me make a
really,
point to go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry. Finish your thought.
I was just going to say, we have really been excited, and there's a reason I think that Glenn, I'm really proud that Glenn and Jeremy and Justin invited me on tonight, because months and months and months of work to get to the point where Friday we passed regulations that reduced waters available to commercial fishing. We reduced the limit on 4/40 to just the main stem of the Ohio south of the Cannleton Lock and Dam. We got 35 and 28 approved for all Kentucky waters, including Kentucky Lake Barkley, and Cumberland. We got extensive improvement to the bodies that are open to commercial fishing. I mean, and then we got another regulation that, to Glenn's point, made it easier for our conservation officers to enforce the methods of which commercial fishers are fishing. Like, they have to mark their trout lines every 100 feet. Your voices are being heard, and I am not a commercial fisherman, a trophy fisherman, a cat fisherman. I am a conservationist, and my group is a conservationist. So if you're not participating, you're wrong. If you're in the chat right now and you're thinking my voice doesn't matter, you're flat ass wrong. Your voice matters.
Regarding
talk to
your
Jeremy,
voice,
talk to Justin, talk to Glenn, and they will get up with people like me and my group, and we will do the best we can to support you.
Yeah, and regarding your voice.
Sorry, I got on my soapbox for just
no, that's okay. There's this, let the soapbox, whatever. But when you communicate, with the officers, when you communicate with the commissions and the commissioners and the department heads, make it a point to communicate with them, in a friendly, constructive way. If you attack them, and I'll give you, for instance, if somebody came at you and started pointing their finger at you and telling you that you're an a-hole and you don't do this right and you need to do this better and blah, 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 how would you respond to that? Would you be offended by it? Would you get pissed? Would you want to, put this guy on the ground, or gal? You don't want to hit a woman.
I think I would do a good job.
We all know how you respond.
But and look at, there's a lot of passion out there, and I get it. What I'm saying is that if you go at it a little bit more, subdued and build relationships, that's going to get a whole lot more accomplished than try to beat them over the head. Because if you beat them over the head, they're going to hit back.
Glenn, your point is exceptionally well taken. And I have to talk to all the people in the 3 conservation groups. I'm on the board of directors. Sometimes people get pissed off and I say, you're going to have to deal with that guy next quarter. at the next quarterly meeting, you're going to have to deal with them.
Yeah.
So building the
It's
relationship.
much better to build,
and-
much better to build a relationship and be respectful of these
Yeah.
commissions and the leadership of these states.
It's
Look,
not that
it
we
may
can't
not,
kick their
it
ass,
may
it's
not
that we
taste, it may
shouldn't.
not taste well, right? It may not taste well. It may go against your personality, whatever. But they're doing a job too. They've got a lot on their plate. If you can present to them something that is reasonable, and remember, there's two sides. They have constituents that are, that they're looking to appease on both sides, or multiple sides. You've got to take that into consideration. What we've done here in Kentucky, what everybody's done here in Kentucky, what happened on Friday was a small move, and it's gonna take a lot of small moves to get where we need to be, not only in Kentucky but other places. And guys, thank you for all your help. Working together with these guys has been great. It's been a riot. They really have a passion for what is going on and what needs to be done. And it's terrific. And a lot of times it's uncommon. And it's not only, the guys that are on with us tonight, but I read through a list of other names in, Kentucky that for years have been fighting this fight. And to them, we give great thanks for their efforts and their outcome, because without what they've accomplished in the past, we wouldn't be where we are today. That happened on Friday. So thank you one and all for that. Guys, there's a lot of work to be done, and not only in Kentucky, but everywhere. I think that, I sure could use everybody's help in other parts of the country. It's tough to keep up with. I got to tell you, it's really tough to keep up with. But when people chime in in different parts of the country, and they start explaining to us what's going on, so that we can investigate it. We can start figuring out what's transpired and what needs to transpire. It certainly helps.
If you're in an area and you have issues with catfishing and you think there can be something done about it, do something about it. Get a hold of Glenn. Get a hold of Mike and ask him who the BHA rep is for that state, because there's one in every state, correct, Mike? Get support. Go to these meetings.
Absolutely.
That's in 16. I think there was 200 plus people there in 2016 that showed up in Kentucky. They took the vast majority of us and stuck us off in a separate building with a live feed because they couldn't host everybody of passionate anglers just right there.
Right.
And there's a lot more than that. So join, talk out, go to these meetings, speak up. Don't expect one group to do it for you, but link up with the group.
And understand that success comes
This
from
is
compromise.
just Kentucky.
Yeah,
Hey, man,
success comes from
Tennessee,
compromise.
Alabama, everywhere.
Yep.
North Carolina is in the
Well,
notes,
we all played sports as kids. Teamwork was fun back then. Let's fucking work together and make it right, man. Teamwork.
Yeah, there are
fun.
there's no participation trophies so much. The outcome needs to be one.
Jeremy
one thing,
and
one for
Justin
all.
have educated me that we gotta fix this, and so I'm bringing in conservation groups that have no stake. We have no individual stake in catfish, but we do have a stake in public
The
lands,
outdoor
public
resources.
waters,
Yep.
public resources, and a wild caught trophy fish is a public resource. And we need
Yep.
to get back to having big sport fishing tournaments where we weigh them and throw them back in the river,
Yeah.
versus
Yep.
throwing them in a
The
payless.
fish.
Versus throwing them in a
Don't throw them.
flipping
Don't throw
payless.
them. Place them back in the water. We don't
Yeah,
like
that's-
throwing fish. We don't like throwing big fish.
Hey man,
Properly
That's a
handle them.
that's a whole different show as far as fish
It
care.
is. Hey, but before I applaud what you're saying there, Mike. But before you cut it off, Glenn, I want to want to spend a minute or two.
Hold on a minute.
Sorry.
I'm not cutting anything off. You
Okay,
guys,
okay,
you
well,
know,
we'll keep rolling. Let's roll.
I mean, we
Past
you know,
Justin's bedtime, but we just keep going. We don't care about that.
I just need a dip. But
Justin, get what you need to get.
Can't do it.
yeah, I want to. It's kind of like this. My old lady, God love her, because she puts up a little bit more than probably she should. But it don't matter where we go. She's always like, "Oh God, I'll see somebody. Next thing you know, I'm talking about conservation, Pele's cat." And I always tell her, she's like, "Don't you get sick of hearing yourself repeating it over and over and over?" And I do. Don't get me wrong. There's times I want to throw the towel in, but for whatever reason, I can't. You know what I mean? And it don't matter where I go. I'm always preaching the same thing, because you never know where that one person is going to hear it and make a difference.
Yep.
I always tell everybody. They's like, "Well, you ain't gonna make a difference." Well, they said the same thing to Rosa Parks. Look where the civil rights movement is if it wouldn't have been for Rosa Parks. One little old lady.
By the way, Justin, Stephen Hanna just chimed in saying that you're going to get your butt kicked for saying old lady.
Hey, I'm the boss.
Hey, you know what? Let's put it this way. Every single one of us want to leave it better than we found it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We all hope that our kids and grandkids are catching 30, 40, 50 pounders in the next Monsters on the Ohio tournament.
Hey, Hannon's taking his kids out, his boy out, and he loves fishing. You can see the excitement in that kid's face when he catches catfish. My daughter's 4 and out. Can't wait to take her out and let her take one of these rods with her name on it. Real
that's
fishing.
what this is all about, man.
Yeah.
Jeremy,
take that controller out of their hands and throw a fishing rod.
And not a 2-pound fish either. I mean,
well, you better go with somebody other than
that's what this is all about, man. Is leaving
Here we go.
Leaving it. What? Oh, Jesus. Leaving it better than we found it. That's what this is all about.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah.
Let's shift real quick, Glenn and Mike, over to something I was enlightened on, I guess, and we kind of did a bunch of research looking at it. Mike scrambling around, and it has to do with when we're catfishing, the bait that we catfish with, and in Kentucky exclusively. Here it starts. In Kentucky exclusively, the way it reads on the catching and selling of bait. Mike, you want to?
Yeah, so
you presented it very
years
well.
ago. So years ago, you could catch bait fish, and I don't mean to be a jerk, but there are certain numbers of fishermen that are too lazy to catch their own bait. And me and one of my best friends on the planet show up the day before we fish and stay up until 2 or 3 in the morning catching our own bait. There are people that don't catch their own bait, and I respect that. Everybody's got a job, and sometimes there's not enough time to do that. So under Kentucky law, bait also has to be procured by commercial fishermen. You cannot catch it and sell it.
I don't have a commercial license.
Fishing.
I can't go catch my fish and turn around and sell it in Kentucky.
Yes. Okay. If you and me and Justin catch an excess of shad or whatever,
skipjack
and we want to sell them, we can skipjack. It doesn't matter. We cannot sell them without a commercial fishing license. And here's the part that people need to catch and pay attention to. You can only catch fish. It doesn't matter if it's bait. It doesn't matter if it's catfish. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what it is. Using the law in Kentucky admin regulation that talks about legal methods of commercial fishing. There's 4 different methods of netting. There's 2 or 3 different methods.
And that net, by the way, the netting is a certain size too. Isn't it limited in size?
It is correct. Yes. Yes.
Net would be 20-foot diameter, 1-inch holes or smaller, mesh holes or smaller.
Dip netting. Yep. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Dip netting's 3 foot or less.
All right.
There's seining.
Hit them with the big one, Mike. what it doesn't say.
You can no longer, and have never for a long time, you've never been allowed to use sport fishing methods to catch your own bait and sell it. You can catch, I shouldn't say it that way. You can no longer use sport fishing methods to catch bait and sell it. You can use it for your own bait, but you cannot use it.
If you have a
To
commercial
catch bait and
bait
sell.
dealer license,
Those
anything like that
methods-
in the state
You
of
cannot
Kentucky,
you cannot use a rod and reel to catch
E-
it.
you cannot
Right.
take it, cast it, catch
No,
them, throw 'em in
even
a
if
bucket
you-
to sell 'em.
Even
And in the
if
state
you
of
have,
Kentucky-
exactly.
And
Jeremy
in the
and
state of
Justin,
Kentucky,
exactly. Even if you
commercial
have
fishermen- Commercial fishermen in the state of Kentucky can't even have fishing gear on their boat while in
While
the
commercial
process.
fishing.
Yes.
You know,
that is an
You know-
illegal method to commercial fish. And if you look at the Kentucky admin regulation for commercial fishing, they're allowed 4 different methods of netting. I think it's 3 methods of seining and 2 methods of trot lining. None of that says anything about rod and reel. When it used to be legal to use rod and reel or sport fishing methods to catch things like skipjack and accumulate 50, 60, 100 of these bait fish to sell as bait, you still needed a commercial license back then. But years ago, the Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources made that method illegal.
I think
And
it was
what it said-
2010.
And yes, that's 13 years ago, brother. And
Yep.
what it said was it's illegal. So people say, well, if you look at the regulation, it's still in there. It's not. Because they made it illegal, it's not in there anymore. So when you look at legal methods of commercial fishing, it's I think 4 methods of netting, 2 methods of seining, 1 method of it's not trapping, but and then 1 method of trot lining. There nowhere in the commercial fishing regulation does it say you can use sport fishing regulations. So if anybody's out there catching skipjack with a rod and reel and accumulating them in a bait
Commercially.
well, and then
Commercially.
selling, even if they have a commercial license, Glenn, it's illegal.
right?
Which
That's
is
what I'm
the
saying.
number
They
one-
cannot- That's
Way-
what I'm
Number
saying. If
one-
People do it.
they can't use a rod
Well,
and
number
reel
one, you
commercially.
you have to have a commercial license to accumulate
Right.
these bait fish and sell them. Number 2, you have to go to the Kentucky admin regulation that governs methods of commercial fishing, and it's netting, seining, and trot lining. There's nothing in there that says you can use a rod and reel. So if you're using a rod and reel to catch skipjack and accumulating them and sell them as bait, you're a criminal.
Yeah.
You're
Well,
criminal.
again, it
You-
boils down to it. You know, you can regulations. It's enforcement, and that's, as we talked about this earlier. Enforcement is a whole nother issue. You know, people have to realize too that a lot of these states, they don't have the resources, the money that they once did. That the law enforcement officials that used to cover, you know, a county are now covering 4 counties. They don't have the resources.
Glenn, I have to give props to the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife Resources because they just
I'm not suggesting that they're not doing their job. I'm just
no,
saying that they're
you're
spread
not.
thin.
You're not. But
And
let's
that's
let's
not only Kentucky, but it's everywhere that they're spread thin.
Don't
They
be
got a
that
lot to do.
person that says, "Oh, they're not going to enforce it, so I'm not going to call." You should be that person that says, "Hey, this guy's selling it right here on the bank illegally. I just watched him catch 50 pieces. I don't care if he's got a bait dealer's license or not, or a commercial fishing license or not."
Yeah.
Call.
I mean, but this is
You know
this
it's
is a
now-
whole,
But
now
Jeremy, I'm
this is a
super
whole
proud of
nother-
our department.
Go ahead.
I'm
Mike.
super proud of our department because we just did a long-standing investigation of pay lakes.
Oh no,
You
I'm
know,
not.
this stuff.
I'm not
Everybody thinks this
discounting.
stuff.
I'm not discounting the department's, abilities and what they're
but
doing.
we can't
I think
jump
it's terrific.
from. We just can't jump from all the effort it took to investigate those pay lakes and put those citations on the pay lakes. Maybe now we can shift that effort to the people that are illegally catching and selling bait.
Well, what
The
point I'm making
challenge
is that
is I'm sorry, Glenn. Go ahead.
No. The point I'm making is that, you know, you're talking about fixed locations with Pay Lakes, which is terrific, and it's great to see what they're doing. And it's not. I'm not trying to target Kentucky. I'm saying in general, in every state. I mean, I know states that they're 32 officers shy of where they need to be. I mean, it's a problem. And enforcement.
That's a really good point.
Enforcement is a challenge. I won't say a problem. It's a challenge for these states. It's not that
they got to get them trained and deployed, which is a long, long road.
Understandable, but it's not that they don't want to enforce it. It's their challenge. The challenge is getting enough bodies out there to enforce it.
That's a great point.
I mean, it's the you know, everybody, you know, tends to do the best that they can. Are there people out there that are lax? Of course there are, in every aspect of it. But you got to give where credit is due, and they do the best that they can with what they have, and that's great.
I promise you, if you make these phone calls when you see something going on,
you make enough of them, they're going to take notice.
You might not see the results immediately, but I promise you,
6 months later, you might hear about them.
Your voices are getting heard.
The people are paying attention in more states than Kentucky, more states than Tennessee, more states in Ohio, more states in Alabama, more states in North Carolina. They're watching. They're watching what people are doing. No names. People have recently got in trouble for doing wrong. The people who recently got in trouble for doing wrong get in trouble again. They've had histories. Guys, call in. Call in.
You know, there's a lot of stuff on here, you know, we don't say, or, you know, it don't get thrown out there, but I promise you, your voices are getting heard, and the more voices they hear, the more
they're looking, they're watching.
Yeah,
it matters.
It's a problem because listen, it's not just, you can't stand up and say commercial guys are taking catfish and they're sticking them in a Pay Lake. Well, guys, we all use skipjack herring for bait. And we need to be conscious of that and think, hey, you know what? Maybe it is a little harder on us in an extra day to go catch our bait, but doing it right versus buying it from maybe somebody that, what is it? Is Alabama have 100 possession limit?
100 possession, yeah.
So
Tennessee has 100 possession a day.
So Tennessee and Alabama, and you have 4 guys that go catch, and you throw in, you know, a day's worth, you got 400 right there, okay? From either one of those states, you got 400.
And we don't need to be.
Guys, you're getting into a whole nother
I know.
subject.
I'm not even going down that road. All I'm saying, guys,
I mean, it's important. It's important for folks to understand and to appreciate. And yes, the bottom line is, and again, as the theme has been all night, is be responsible. You know, whether it's bait fishing, whether it's bait use.
Well, we need to
bait use.
So everyone on this call is super passionate about doing the right thing for catfish and for our fisheries. But I think tonight's theme was we had a really, really good day on Friday at the commission. Reference our catfish fishery. We close waters that are very rarely or not used very much. We limited the 4/40 to the main stem of the Ohio just south of the Cannelton Dam. We imposed the recreational fishery limit of 35 inches for a trophy fish that is blue or a flathead, and 28 inches that is a channel. That was not statewide. Well, guess what? Now it is.
Yeah,
it's statewide on the Ohio. It's statewide on the Kentucky portions. It's statewide on the Kentucky portions. The Mississippi south of where the Ohio.
It's statewide. Period. Which is great.
The confluence of the Ohio and the Mississippi. Yeah. It's statewide on all the. And then we also closed tributaries of the Ohio south of the Cannleton Dam. So it's the main stem.
Yep. No,
And
it's all
obvious that our
great
fisheries
stuff.
director, Dave Dreves, and our commission so we've got some things to celebrate. We're passionate and we're passionate and we're pissed off and we want to make it better. But
Well, guys, I'll tell you what, we're going on 2 hours. I want to congratulate everybody.
But I want to
first
end
and
this on like
foremost.
a positive note.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm doing
did
here.
Some
I want
great work over the last 7 months.
Yeah. Actually, it's been a lot longer than that, Mike. There's been some great work done for years, for decades, and that's what's led us to this point. We were, I look at it this way: these guys for years baked the cake. We were able to go in there and put some icing on it, and we appreciate the opportunity to work with you. And we appreciate the passion and all the effort that's been made in the past. That's what got us here. Still a lot of work to be done, but this is a good start. That Friday was a great day, and I echo Mike's sentiments, and I thank Dave Drees and the commission and the commissioner in Kentucky. Let's hope that we can do more as quickly as we can in Kentucky and other states, and we will, continue to try to move the needle throughout the nation as the American Catfishing Association. We appreciate the support, Mike. We appreciate your organization teaming up with us and Justin and Jeremy. I can't tell you what a pleasure it's been to work with you guys for the last. Sure. Hang on one second, Mike. Justin, Jeremy, thank you very, very much for all the help and the passion that you've shared with us, over the last many months. It's folks like you that make this kind of stuff happen. So thank you so much for everything. So go ahead, Mike, and we're going to wrap this thing up.
Okay, I would just like to advocate for any conservation groups that are listening that have nothing to do with catfish. Glenn, listen to Jeremy, listen to Justin, listen to Aaron. Pay attention to these guys and gals that have been in this business advocating for their fishery and their wild trophy fish. It doesn't matter if it's a trout, a striper. It doesn't matter if it's menhaden. There's a big deal with the menhaden on the eastern coast. These gentlemen have educated me and my partners in my conservation group to the tune that we need to dance on the same sheet of music, and we need to get behind them and support them. And so if you're listening to this and you're not necessarily a catfish person, doesn't matter. If you're a conservation person, get involved and support these guys. Thanks.
Agreed.
Thanks, Glenn.
Thanks, Mike, for joining us tonight.
Yep. Thanks,
Justin and Jeremy, you guys close it out for us. By the way, Justin, you are really getting picked on by Stephen Paul Hanna. I don't know if you've been watching.
They got a little something between each other. I'm not quite sure what goes on there.
Yeah, there's you're definitely getting your
Hannon can be a little different sometimes too. Calling out Justin about every 2 minutes, it looks like.
He's probably sitting on the pooper because I seen what he made for dinner.
Oh boy,
something like that.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Uh-oh.
So, guys,
bromance. You guys have a bromance.
There you go. But guys, thank you.
Justin, what do you want to say, Justin? Thank you to Kentucky for doing what they did.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a critic with Kentucky on Kentucky.
No.
And
no way.
A little bit of everybody along
the way.
But
I will say this, and I know we still got a long ways to go, but
yeah, man.
Sometimes I really do like to see the new face in the fisheries director spot. Dave
Drees.
I think is I think Dave is going to be a lot better for us than Ron was. I know a lot of guys liked Ron. I was not one of them guys, but I've always gave credit where credit's due. They passed this unanimously, and I was very surprised with that.
I was surprised too that went unanimous.
Yeah,
I was expecting
very-
I was expecting one or two some nays.
His presentation made sense.
Yeah,
He just laid it out. Bam, there it was.
Well,
Here's the numbers. And you didn't turn it to tournament guys. You didn't turn. This is the numbers based on what we were given, and here's what we're seeing, and here's what we propose to be done.
you know,
And they all
Based
jumped on board.
on the
That's awesome.
science.
And
It was
I
on the
think a lot of
science,
times, I think a lot of what helped this time too is Dave was willing to use the commercial fishing reports. Ron never would before.
Oh,
Ron
that's a
kept
great
saying
point.
that they were
That's a great
skewed
point.
and they wouldn't lie. And we did open records request, and we pulled their reports saying, hey, they're way underreporting. Well, this is what their reporting got. So,
yeah.
you know,
Well, guys, I again can't tell you how much I appreciate
Yes.
all the effort, man. You know, it's. I'll tell you what, it's and again, those that are not here in the forum tonight too, and I'm going to go through those names one more time: Aaron Wheatley, Steve Douglas, Rob Bennefield, Scott Kress, Chris DeBow, Chris Lee, and I know there's a lot more.
The Blue Wave. What was that? 16.
The Blue Wave, yeah. I mean,
Was that
again,
there was a lot of people showed up from many different
yeah,
states
they did.
to help
But, I
support
mean,
the
and-
overall cause.
to
And
thank
there's
That's when I
everybody.
first kind of went down there, and it was eye opening.
there's been off
Yep.
and on a lot of people. I mean, there ain't no
The
way you can
Coopers have
sit
been on here tonight. They've shown up.
Yeah,
Micah's been on here.
uh,
Mackey's
Yep.
always down there. I mean, you name down through these names. You get. Thank you for your support, Eddie. You're always giving support. I mean, the ones I know, you probably
Lee Robinson.
Yeah, I mean, it's there. We could be here all night naming names, which
Yeah.
is great because that shows people working together, and that's what I want to stress the most is working together. You work together, you can accomplish pretty much anything.
I don't care if there's 12 people in the chat room or watching
It'll
live.
get shared.
Yeah,
People need to see this. They need to see Justin online talking to Glenn. That's a huge step in
Well,
itself, right there.
And here's
no,
the
it's,
thing. I don't.
you know, stop making such a big deal of that. Justin didn't know who I was. He had an opinion as far as where it was going. I
Justin has
respect that.
opinion.
Hey,
He's
I-
opinionated just a little bit.
I thought he was somebody trying to book a Tupperware party. Damn.
He says he wishes he would have.
Hey,
But-
you know, just so you know that Hannah said that you already have a bunch of these.
I do. My mom's underneath her. I've been cleaning her stuff out.
So I don't want to hear it. So
She's got-
you're a
she's
Tupperware user
thousands.
too, which is great.
But
But anyways,
I was wanting to say too, I ain't got no kids, so I'm not doing this for me. It's not my kids that's going to be catch fish because I don't have none. It's everybody else's kids.
it's
You know what I mean?
generational, guys. I mean, this is
And
what
it
happens.
takes everybody.
What happens today affects many tomorrows.
Yeah.
And that's it's so important, that again, but we do it right. Guys, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you spending 2 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours talking about this. It was
Yeah,
a
you're-
great accomplishment. Again, a lot more to do. We appreciate everybody joining us tonight, and this will be available to watch. Share it if you would. Get people involved. If you know something's going on in your state that you think needs attention, let us know. We'll get things together and do what we can to move the needle on regulations. And we're trying to do it everywhere. Believe me. I mean, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Indiana, Missouri, Arkansas, Mississippi, Louisiana, those states that have regulations regarding invasive species. We're talking to them as well, but again, don't expect much when something gets classified as invasive. It's a very, very difficult thing to turn around. It really, it's quite frankly, it's almost impossible. So, hey, this weekend, ACA Live is going to be live on the water again at the Twisted Cat Tulsa event. So Saturday morning for about 4 hours, we're going to have 3 teams that'll be live that you can ask questions and see how they do during that tournament.
Hey, Glenn, can you flip it back to everybody?
Now you're
You
a
don't need these
director?
two ugly
Now
mugs
you're
on
a
the big
director?
screen any longer.
Now you're a
You
director.
see, you
Okay.
see Mike's pretty face and your face, you know.
Yeah, no, sorry. Not paying attention. Anyways, but just want to let everybody know, but that's coming. We'll have a post on it tomorrow, or the next day. But appreciate everybody being in chat and sticking with us. I know it was a lot of information that we shared, but guys, thank you. Thank you. Anything else before I say goodnight?
Nope. If you need us,
Good.
reach out. We'll
Wow.
talk offline.
Wow. Nobody's got anything else to say? Amazing.
2 hours
All right, I'm
without
going to take that.
silenced.
I'm going to take that window of opportunity right there then. Guys,
Well,
thank
I don't like your yellow shirt, but that's just my personal position.
you. Well, I'm sorry if you don't like my yellow shirt.
He'll send you a Tupperware container.
You know,
Well, you mean you're a handsome guy, but yellow
yellow shirt
yellow's
should-
not a good color, man. I go with green.
I don't know. I
orange.
disagree. I got quite a few women that. Whoa, where'd he go?
Mike,
I didn't knock him out.
Yeah.
Honest to God,
You booted him, man. You
I
booted
didn't
him.
boot him. I did not boot him.
Yeah. It's all good. Everybody, thank you for watching.
Sorry, Mike.
Thank you. Thank
No,
you.
I didn't
Kentucky,
boot
for
you.
Doing
And
what y'all did.
you don't like my yellow shirt? I'm sorry.
Justin thinks it's orange, so you're good.
Well, that's okay. Anyways,
does look
all right,
orange.
guys.
Yep.
Thank you for spending the time. Thanks for all the efforts, and thank you everybody out there that puts forth this kind of effort, that has that kind of passion.
Well,
So
talk
until
talk
next
soon.
time, thank you very much. Hey, by the way, congratulations to Jimmy Burton on winning this month's ACA Win a
What do
Boat
you got to
Prize.
say to
Pack.
him, Justin?
All right, there you go, Sonny.
All right, man. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. We'll see
Good
you
night,
guys.
everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
It's about passion for a sport we all enjoy. It's about conservation, education, community, and fellowship. It's about a single voice of strength. It's about being part of a common cause for the common good. It's about you. It's about us. It's our time to come together.
We're asking you to join us.
And becoming proud members, American Catfish Association. You'll be happy you did. They're doing a great job.
Yeah, they are.